Dan, look, last week, a little bit rough. I shot a 4, and yet somehow you lost to me. But here's the good news. We're friends. We go way back. I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself right here, right now. No pressure, unless you screw it up again. So let's see what you got, brother.
So you're going to give me a shot at the title?
I'm giving you a shot at the title. You get one mulligan, and it's happening right now.
I'm not going to mess this one up.
Come on, Big Daddy.
Woo!
I hit a 3, man.
Oh, he's still on.
Oh, my God.
No one solution for this man. That's awesome. Nice try.
Live from First Street Studios in South Tampa, Florida, it's time for another round of Last Call with Dan O'Brien, Seth Crumrick, and Jessica behind the camera. Welcome back to Last Call 76. I'm Dan O'Brien.
Hey, I'm Seth Crumrick. It's great to see everybody back. Really appreciate you coming back to the show.
So it's been an outstanding outpour, so to speak. Is that a good word?
I'd say so, absolutely.
I think we have 300 or 400 hits total views, so we're pretty excited about that. We put a lot of effort into this.
Absolutely. You know, we learned a lot from it. We're testing, we're learning, we're improving. It's been super.
Well, I appreciate you being back. It's a pleasure having you back after 3
course.
years, almost 4 years now.
Almost 4 years.
And we're doing our show again. And just a different platform, but I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely. And what I really loved about that first episode, you got a chance to meet us, and we got a chance to give our background. And today, in this episode, we get a chance to talk about our why. Hey, why did we join the military? Why is the military a great place to come do a wonderful career? And that opportunity is something that's near and dear to both of us. So I look forward to this show and what we're going to do. So cheers to that. Absolutely. So Dan, one of the issues that's been bugging me over the last, I'd say about a year or so, is the military's been taking a bit of a beating in the news. It's been... people have questioned our ability to do our job, and that is just not accurate at all. And it strikes me that we need to do a rebrand. What do you think the military should do as far as rebranding, given your background in sports and your background in branding?
So I think, because this is not just a one-answer thing, I think Accessions Command and Recruit Command does an amazing job.
Yeah.
Just like the guys out in L.A., how they bring the movie stars in out of
Absolutely.
our isolation at Fort Irwin.
Yeah.
And we show them what life is really like. But getting back to what I guess you were asking is, I think a rebrand at some point is always good.
Yeah.
You make adjustments, just like what we used to be all we could be or be all you could be.
Sure.
And then it was Army of One.
Yeah.
And then what is it now with you guys today?
Oh gosh, it's changing.
Army Strong.
Army Strong, which is great.
And those are all good messaging things,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's all the military's responsibility.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. I think that there's a shared national responsibility for this.
You just hit it right there. And this is where I get
Okay.
mad, without hurting anybody's feelings.
Sure.
But we have media that takes the worst case scenario.
Right.
So as a for instance, if I may,
Yeah.
100 of us get off of a boat at port.
Right.
Oh, just happens to be the Navy's birthday. Congratulations and happy birthday, Navy, on
Happy 247.
247. But didn't mean to get off track there. But when you look at it holistically, 100 kids, okay, dudes and dudettes, sailors, go up to a port after they've been out at sea. 99% of them do everything amazingly well.
Absolutely.
One person. In this scenario, not saying it y'all, because it happens in the military and the Army as well and everything else. That's what they key in on.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not worth giving credit when they're doing an amazing job, right? Let's just go after the one situation that went bad.
And the Army by itself, when you look how big it is, the active guard reserve today, just the Army, is over 1 million people.
Right.
So of course you're going to have a story come up. I mean, take any other demographic with those numbers, there is going to be a problem that pops up.
Yeah, so when you say it's a national issue, or it's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
So what needs to happen is, like school teachers or people in positions of power, like educating our future children of America that are going to become adults, right? some of them are,
Yeah.
then you have to take the responsibility and educate yourself before you talk
Absolutely.
to a bunch of people, like still to this day, and I'm not going to call it in high school, in my local area. So you go to a teacher-parent conference night,
Yeah.
and you still got teachers
Yeah.
in high school saying, well, the Army should be your last choice.
Yeah.
You know, or your grades are so bad, your only option is to go in the Army, you're going to be in jail. It's the most absurd, irresponsible thing
Absolutely.
any teacher could say to a student.
Absolutely.
Do you agree to that?
Yeah, and it's not just teachers, it's community leaders writ large.
No, I'm just
Anybody-
using that as a for instance.
So we're in total agreement on that. Absolutely.
So here's the thing. I mean, we can
Yeah.
sit here and I can make a lot of people mad
Yeah.
and say, you know, hey, this, that, or that. It's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a shared national responsibility because we need the best men and women
Yeah.
to serve our military.
I totally agree with that. Our military is so amazing. Youngsters that come up that are looking at their career, they need to see the military as their first option, not their last
100%.
option. It gets me. And to your point, any discussion with youngsters trying to figure out what their future should be an informed decision. We can disagree all day long on anything. You can tell me the military is wrong or bad. As long as you have an informed conversation, that you've done your research. But what you don't get to do is say that the military is weak or the military is somehow falling behind when it's just absolutely not the case. I mean, between you and I think what we give for this show is we have 60 years of experience.
Right.
Listen to us. We're going to tell you why the military is amazing and why it did wonderful things for us.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it's not like everybody's eligible either.
Right.
So I think that's a whole nother subject. But a lot of these kids are disqualified before they even get to a recruiter's office.
Yeah.
So when you eliminate that and you take this piece out and this piece out, well, our recruiting pool gets a little bit smaller, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So we need everybody in our country to look at this and look at the benefit of it as you're learning through our show, that the military should be a first choice. It doesn't have to be the choice.
Yes.
But if you're going Division I on a scholarship, which was my dreams of grandeur, but my grades sucked, but that's okay, I'll admit it. But then I had to take another option and went in the military. But that should be option one, military service. Military Academy, Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, West Point, whatever.
Absolutely.
Or you go on the enlisted side.
Absolutely.
And then you work your way up and grind it up through there and get all your college paid for. I get 144 college credit hours for free.
Absolutely.
So when I think about it, I have no college debt. This new bill that passed, we're not ever going to talk politics, but I didn't need that. Right? Because the Army took care of that for me. So when I look at all these things and all these comments that are made, and when I see irresponsible news networks telling a false narrative, not saying it's not factual, but you sugarcoated it the way you want it for ratings.
Totally.
And that drives me crazy.
And look, what I see on that too is the military, and take it from Dan and I, the military is the most of today is the most lethal military humankind has ever seen. We have one job in the military, and that's to fight and win the nation's wars.
That's it.
There has never been a time in human history that a military has been stronger or more proficient than today's military. And that, you can tell me about the greatest generation, and we stand on the shoulders of those giants, but today's military could wipe any past armies off the planet, to include what we were like 20 years ago.
100%.
It's really amazing, and that's not just on the special operations side. Dan and I worked at the National Training Center. We saw at least 20 armor brigades come through and learn. They showed up pretty good, and they left with some sharp steel ready to go do whatever the nation needed. The same thing happens in Germany. Same thing happens at Fort Polk with the Joint Readiness Training Center. So I know for a fact the military is awesome because we train hard. We've got the backing of industry. Our technology is the best. And also, I know what it looks like when it fails. Just look at Russia.
Oh, God.
Russia never trained. Their culture, they were afraid to embarrass their officers, so they put on a lot of parades and they called it training. Hey, it's no surprise when they invaded a neighbor, they didn't even have to deploy halfway around the world like we do. Right. When they invaded their neighbor, they got their clock cleaned. Now, it helped that the last 8 years, Green Berets have been in there for 8 years teaching them how to use anti-tank weapons and guerrilla warfare. But still, the point is, that army that said they were amazing is not amazing. It was a total paper tiger. This military is fantastic. So do not conflate our lethality and our ability to do our job with some social programs and social things that we've got going on inside the military. We're always going to be a reflection of society.
100%.
So when you see inclusion and diversity happening in the ranks, that's a reflection of what's going on in society. But that has nothing to do with our lethality and our ability to win a fight. I mean, you're comparing apples and washing machines, two totally different things. So stop it. It's just not accurate. And look, the other thing I'll say is you don't have to, all right, let's say you don't want to listen to us.
Right.
Go pull up the Jimmy Kimmel clip with Jeff Ross, the comedian, who was on there recently, right? The guy's awesome, the roast master. He tells this great story about when he joined the USO. He thought he was just going to be talking to a bunch of knuckle draggers. But in reality, he got in there and he met these brilliant infantry guys. He met wonderful MPs, dentists, doctors, airplane mechanics. And he goes on the show and goes, I was totally blown away by what I found. The great thing about the military is to choose your own adventure. So if you've got the ability to shape or mold somebody that's interested in it, this is a wonderful place for them to become realized.
Right. And you know, so to reshape like what we look like in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, they have teams that do that or whatever. And I can only say it from my experience.
Right.
We do a great job internally.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then we do have extended reach out there, like we do events with the recruiting command. They do a great job, but it's a very hard job.
It's a very difficult job.
I mean, you being an SF guy, me being an MP, okay, our jobs have been hard over time.
Right.
But those people are charged, honestly, like at the initial gate to find the greatest athletes or the greatest performers, the smartest people.
Yeah.
And convince them to come serve our country.
Yeah.
And then we take a responsibility at the recruiter level that we are going to give them the best training in the world. We are going to take care of them. We are going to feed them. We're going to educate them. And we're going to do all these amazing things because this is what our country is investing in.
And the recruiters need that push-pull.
They do.
They're pulling. The rest of the nation needs to push. It's both sides of the rope.
You know, and I'm not asking for no favors here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just be informed, be educated, and if you're going to say something, then say it, but don't deny it or stick to it. And when you get educated for saying something like that, for guys like us that have put our whole lives, I got skin in the fight and blood in the fight.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going down that road. That's something about something else, but I don't want to get there. But it's like, think about who you're affecting when you talk like that.
Yeah.
These veterans out here. And we got some that are struggling, and that's what a lot of this show's about. We're going to try to get after some of those things later. But we need our nation behind us. We don't need our nation, saying, things or the news saying half-truths. And
it happened just recently over the last few years where the military all of a sudden has taken some body shots.
Right.
And I just don't understand why it is. And look, I can speak from my experience of like the why. Why do you join? Why do you do these things? When I was in high school, and I think a lot of high school folks can absolutely resonate with this, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
But I felt this call of the wild, right? I'd want to do something adventurous, something fun, something challenging, something that wasn't going to be easy. I wanted to do that Jack London call of the wild. I didn't want to live in a Dilbert cartoon, going into some job every day, punching the clock just so I can get a paycheck. But how was I going to do that? How was I going to go? And my journey, I also realized that college is really expensive.
Right.
I know I got an ROTC scholarship that paid for Tulane. And I'll tell you now, Tulane was expensive back in the day when I went. It's over $70,000 a year now. But if you're like, hey, I want to go to a private school and I want to get it paid for, ROTC is a wonderful way to do it.
Amazing.
And you get an amazing job in the back end for 5 years that teaches you incredible managerial and operational skills, which just makes you competitive in the civilian market, which is awesome. And that's why I just say, hey, look, you got to take a look at it. You'll find your passion in there.
Right, I agree with that. And we're going to wrap this one up, but we'll pick it up. But that was awesome as far as getting after that. And I just think we just need to do a much better job as far as our country as a whole.
100%.
And be more responsible in everything. So
Absolutely.
that was a good one, though. That was a good
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So Dan, in this last segment, you had talked a little bit about your journey, how it began. But I'm really interested in sort of a deeper dive into your why. Why did you join the military? What did you think you were going to get out of it? And what did you get out of it?
Well, so my dream was to go play college football like you got to do. My grades were not so good. I was in, I'll just tell you, I was in some LD classes, right? Or some boo-boo classes, I guess is what my kids call them now. Whatever. I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah.
I got some college now, right?
Right.
But
a lot of college.
I don't know that I was going to join the military right away. I was going to see the electrical side because I was working with Jason. You met him. But we went to the ball game. And his brother, I worked for him over at Hudig Electric from our church in the Hudig family.
That's right.
And they own Hudig Electric down in Dunedin. So I worked there, worked at some restaurants and did some things, and it just wasn't working out for me. So I couldn't go to college. I had some college offers, but they were like D2, and then I had to be redshirted, or back then, Prop 48 deals. So
these guys are playing like 6 or 7 years now with COVID.
I know,
it's crazy,
right?
but that's a totally different topic.
Right. So I just, it was kind of one of those things. I met a recruiter at our football team there at Dunedin. We were a really good state championship level team.
Yeah.
We didn't win, but we were in it quite a few times. So I just decided that I needed to do something with myself.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going nowhere fast. How about that? So then I joined the military. I talked to my recruiter, and I was Sergeant Manning back then. I see how you remember these guys.
Absolutely.
Right, because there was some scar tissue when I got to base. The guy was coming back from it.
I've heard that a lot.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. But what cooler heads prevail, right? So I went in the Army, and I think for me, what I found is I just had amazing leaders.
Yeah.
All right, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Of course, the leadership changed because I came in. I went to Fort McClellan for basic, and then immediately shipped to Korea.
Yeah.
So, it's changed, but fundamentally, it's like still the same. If that makes sense. It's just
Absolutely.
People change, but the organization's like the oldest business in the world.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest organization in the world. It's been around, the United States military, right? So, you change leaders, friends come and go, and you pick it back up, and that's kind of what I felt when I made the choice, and then to do a career of it.
Absolutely.
It was just too good to walk away from, because I always had this business savvy thing in my head, and I was like, man, this is like my launching pad to be able to have a retirement, to have
healthcare, the benefits. Oh my gosh!
And if potentially some people might have been injured, and you get some disability on top of that.
Yeah.
From whatever.
Right.
Scenarios, right? But it kind of gave me the launching pad into financial ability to move into my entrepreneurship lifestyle.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of my why. What about you?
Well, I talked a little bit earlier about that call of the wild. I was that kid that I wanted to do something adventurous, had no idea how to get there. I was a smart kid, but I needed money for college. Like, I think just about every high school student feels that exact same pressure right now. The ROTC program paid for my college, and I would say now that those programs have only become more robust across the United States, it's a great way to get college paid for. But I'll be the first to admit that's why I joined.
Right.
I had this call of the wild, and I needed someone to pay for it, and they were kind of working in, sort of in parallel, but they hadn't crossed over. About 3 to 4 years in, I decided I want to try out for Special Forces. And I knew it was a low percentage target. But I just gutted it out. I got lucky. I worked hard. I really leaned into it, and I was able to become a Green Beret. And then where those two things met, the career and that call of the wild, when we invaded Afghanistan after 9/11, watching the hope return to Afghani people, and watching this big change happen, I had that epiphany, that aha moment of, this is my calling, this is what I want to do. And what I would leave folks with is, you can get out of the military what you put into it. If you really lean into it and you invest in the military will invest in you. They sent me to get a master's degree paid for by the military while I was getting my paycheck and all my benefits for 2 years at the Naval Postgraduate School. And then a few years ago, they sent me to Stanford University, school I would not have been able to get into on my own as an undergraduate, let the record show. They sent me to Palo Alto, lived there, and I was a national security fellow there. So the military was giving back to me based on what I put into it. And it was just a wonderful experience. So when I look back at my why of why I joined initially to where I ended up, it's a journey. And it's got some turns and things.
Yeah, 100%.
Neither one of us could have predicted when we joined where we would be now.
Unbelievable. And I'll tell you something on that too, is you said it, the Army will invest in you. Or let's just say for everybody here, the military.
Yeah.
I remember coming in as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Once I got to Korea. And the minute I got there, correspondence courses, sign up immediately. Remember you had to have big yellow books, right?
Absolutely.
Like phone books of books. You got to do this. You got to do this on PT. You got to do this. So they were like, the minute I stepped into, the minute I stepped out of the Army, there was education, fitness, right?
Yeah.
And it's an open book test.
Yeah.
They tell you exactly what you got to do. You got to go to Audie Murphy. You got to go to Sergeant Morales.
Yeah.
You've got to have a 300 PT score. You need to be enrolled in college. You need to do correspondence courses. You need to go to the NCO Soldier of the Month board.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get you a waiver if there's available, or to specialists. And then they do the same thing again.
Yeah.
And then you get into, let's say, our level. Right? This is what's great for the fans out here or the people watching. So you know for your children.
Yeah.
Then you go to advanced academies along the way. The officers do, and so do the enlisted.
Yeah.
And then ultimately culminating in the War College for you in the Sergeant's Major Academy for us.
And what's really cool about that point is, well, I know there's a program for everything. You were not ready for the Audie Murphy test. You had to prepare for it, and there was a program for that. When I joined the military and I went to my first basic course, I was in football shape. I was not in Army shape.
Right.
I could lift and sprint, but when it came to a 2-mile run, man, I was barely passing them. I fed a lot of bushes in Audubon Park in New Orleans and the 2-mile PT run, barely making those times. But if you invest in it and you work at it, the path is right there. All you have to do is do some work. People that don't invest in it, you're not going to get that payoff. But the payoff, if you just follow the program. So look, if you're out there now and you can only do 2 or 3 push-ups,
don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't talk yourself out of it. If you've got that call to the wild in your heart and you feel like, hey, I want an adventurous life. I don't want to work at the box store down the street. Hey, man, I'm telling you, you can absolutely go be a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL. There's a program for that. Go find it and go get it. Realize your dream. You get one shot at it. Life is short. Too short in some cases, as we've personally seen.
Yes.
Grab it while you can. Get inspired and find your why. And I will tell you here that the military is a wonderful place for you to become fully realized, and it should be that first option.
And I'll tell you the last thing on that, because you hit on a couple good things there that I like, is you could go be a doctor.
Yeah.
Get all that paid for.
Of course.
You could be a dentist. You could be a military policeman like I was, and then later on move on to other stuff. There's so many opportunities, but all I think we're getting back to here is we have a moral obligation as countrymen.
Absolutely.
That we have to make sure that we invest in the youth in our high schools and our children right now, because they will be our replacements.
Yeah.
And they're going to be asked to do the unthinkable at some point. But don't let that scare you. Right. It's a maybe.
Frankly, the vast majority don't.
Right. And that's the truth.
And that's okay. Like, everyone's got to roll the play.
But with the world that it is, just like you're touching on Russia.
It's not getting safer. It's not getting safer.
And that's what I mean. So, we never wish the unthinkable on anybody, right? But it's a business. And at the end of the day, our business is taking care of our red, white, and blue, right?
Hey, the drums of chaos are beating right now around the world. Things are not getting better. We need to put the right investment into our security.
So you agree to that? So
We're in total agreement.
That's a huge investment, and the world's just as unstable as it was after it was 20 years that we just got out of all the conflicts we were in. Mm-hmm. Now other people are out there, raising the bat, right?
That's right.
And swinging.
Hey, it's the best for the nation. It's best for you as the individual coming in, and there's over 230 different individual routes for you to choose your own adventure.
I agree.
grow as a person and grow as a nation, and we're going to do great.
Yeah, that was good, though. That's a good
Absolutely.
segment.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for all that.
You bet. Of course.
So, Seth, you had mentioned in show one, in this show, that you're going through transition right now. You are actually moving from a soldier to civilian life.
Oh, yeah.
So what is that like? And then I'll share with you what it's been like for me the last almost 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. But what's it like now?
I'll say that the best advice I was given was transition from the military is a 4-year process. The first year is going through the actual, getting out of the military, and then the next 3 years, which you're going through, are sort of the reinventing yourself. So I'll focus on this last year. It's been everything people warned me about. A little bit scary, a little bit awesome, a little bit, anticipatory for like what comes next, and having to learn patience. But the number one thing I found this year, as I finished it up, was there's so many organizations that are here to help you. Whether it's the Honor Foundation helping you transition and find jobs, or Commit, which is the same type of organization, or here in Tampa, the STAR Network, which are a bunch of business leaders that are from all walks of life that want to keep special operations and other service members here in Tampa. They sit down and mentor you. It's been really fantastic. And of course, finally, is the VA. I know the VA gets beat up sometimes, but I've had a magnificent experience with the VA's prep program for some of the bumps and bruises that I've taken during my time. They got me physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, ready for this transition piece. So I'm super excited. It's great. I feel as I'm leaving the military now, literally now, that my steel is sharp. I'm extremely prepared because the military and a bunch of organizations that are trying to take care of service members all leaned in and did that final investment on me before I retired.
Well, what I think's really neat. So when we were in charge out at Fort Irwin, they had that really good SFL TAP program.
They did. Soldier for Life, transition.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the job placement programs that we were working on, and before us with Scott and I forget the other sergeant major, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But having to go through that, I guess it's supposed to start at like 2 years out, roughly, but it really is about a year.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting as I was moving out of the military.
Yeah.
I kind of took a different path.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the 4-year program, so to speak, or maybe I summa cum laude out of that, or, I don't know. But I think what the military has done for what it was to where it was or where it is now is quite a feat.
It really is. Whether you serve 28 years like you and I did, or if you just come in and do one tour, what was really cool about those career skills programs that you helped build out there at Fort Irwin, you could come in as a service member, 18 years old, you could leave the military at 20 or 21, and there was an entire program built out there to give you a skill. And it might be over-the-road truck driving, it could be the wind energy projects that pay great money.
Right.
So not only were you able to come into the military and get great operational experience, get your college degree paid for by eArmyU, for example.
Right.
And then walk right into a job because you got the career skills given to you before you retired. There was no gap when you came out of the military before you had to reinvent yourself. You did it while you were on active duty. Now, what I remember about you, though, is you were an entrepreneur. You had a business going. You had these things that were already in play. So you were really successful in that piece. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that's what is lacking.
Yeah. Or that's maybe the opportunity going forward for the military.
Right, and I think so. And I think it's a touch point that needs to be discussed. It's there is a lot of veteran organizations. And I'm going to touch on something interesting here to all of you.
Yeah.
Is there already was a bunch of veterans like us. We were in the clothing stuff, and we got the Black Rifle guys doing coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Matt Best guys, and then we got the Nick Palmascanos and the Tim Kennedy doing Ranger Up.
Of course.
And then the Grunt Style guys, and then the Nine Line guys. We all kind of hit this, like, I guess, this like boom, so
Yeah.
to speak, and it went well. And it opened up a lot of great opportunities. Got nothing bad to say about any of them. They're all good, individuals, good Americans. They all
Yeah.
serve their country. But where I'm going, that's the entrepreneur side that I would like to see, kind of embedded into some programs and how you can get these loans and like as a
Small business administration.
and as an example, Little Caesars as a pizza company, right, $5, $6 pizzas, but they have a veteran program that's set up that if you do it right and apply, you can get in there and get a franchise for like 50 grand.
That's amazing.
Right. So there's all these companies
of which you can get a loan for from Small Business Administration that has veterans loans and things.
Or
Absolutely.
Little Caesars has a program and who they do their loans through. So I'm just saying, or
Even
Subway,
better.
or Papa John's. Right? Go own Papa John's with Peyton Manning and Shaq if you want to.
Absolutely.
But those are the programs that I would like to see. Remember when we went down to LA and we did these, and this guy's trying to get us to sign on with this, and
right.
people there. Why aren't these major, corporations coming in and telling them about the franchise opportunities?
Yeah.
Because that's really the second side of job placement.
Interesting.
It's not everybody can be a business owner.
Yeah.
But then again, not everybody's ready to be an employee again, too, because you go to a job, and a lot of veterans have struggled in ways because they're so used to that, that
structure and that culture,
the discipline that not everybody exhibits.
It's different. It's just different. It's a different culture.
It is.
I think we use Last Call 76 though to use you as a great example, and frankly, I'm going to keep coming back to you on this topic because I think it's something that we need to thread into our shows, because we talk about the opportunity to educate people on being an entrepreneur. Your story, just you laying it out, is exactly what people need to hear and see, because the career skills programs are already there, but if they tune into this show, Dan will educate you on what he did, the good parts, and maybe even some of the bumps in the road, because nothing's perfect. And I think that's going to set a great example for folks coming out. So I'm going to come back to you on this.
Okay.
So be warned. That's it.
Hey, that's a good one, though.
Yeah, right on.
So last show, you kind of made me a little bit mad.
Oh, what did I do?
Because you want to sit there and play the coin game. Now you know that was uncalled for, but I knew you were going to do it. So I'm going to instigate it this week, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to coin you with this.
Well, in my defense, I was trying to get a free round on Dan, but you were very prepared, and I wasn't surprised. But I'm always prepared as well. So I'm going to bring out my coin, which is one of my favorites. And this was a coin given to me by General Fadl Barwani, but he would always go by General Fadl, an Iraqi two-star. And what's cool about it, it's got his symbol of the Iraqi Special Operation Force and his stars. But on the back, you'll see the U.S. Green Beret symbol at the top, and then you'll see all the other symbols of the Iraqi Special Operation Forces that are on there, because it was one team, one fight, and General Fadl felt that brotherhood and that kinship. And as we talked about in the last episode, the Iraqi Special Operation Force were started as bookkeepers, college students, and a whole bunch of different folks off the street. They all volunteered to join.
Yes.
General Fadl ran a bunch of nightclubs up in Dahuk. He was probably a little questionable and shady what he was doing. He was very successful, hit with all the ladies, but he said, you know what, my country needs me. And he came in, he went through the selection course, trained him up, and he became this natural leader. And he did awesome things. We worked together all the way through 2011. Personal friend and awesome guy, had dinner at his house many times. And then after we left, he was the guy that led the fight that stopped ISIS at Baghdad that I talked about last week. He was the guy that destroyed them in Mosul and pushed them back. And Fadl was funny because he was always claiming he was dying. He was like James Brown, like, I can't go on with the concert. And every time I'd see him, he'd be like, oh, Major Seth, I'm dying, right? And he wasn't. He was always tough. But we did lose him last year. He passed away from some diseases, not from enemies. He was on everybody's kill list. Al-Qaeda, Iranian black militias, everybody wanted to get him. But at the end of it, it was just good, hard living. They ended up getting Fadl. But I remember him fondly. I remember what he represented for his country. I remember him being a phenomenal friend and a wonderful leader. So to General Fadl, this is your coin. Thanks for everything, buddy.
Salute to that.
Salute.
So we are back, and we had to take a break because a buddy of mine, Mike White, decided that he needs to interrupt my show in the middle of it with my production, and you will pay for that, Mike, by way of T-shirt purchases. But anyway, but during that break, it was kind of cool, right? We were discussing some stuff. We had a few Blanco cigars each. Not a few, but one.
Yeah.
And a little Horse Soldier whiskey.
Absolutely.
Amazing company. Go down to Urban, what is it called?
Urban Stillhouse.
Urban Stillhouse.
St. Pete. The chef there is phenomenal.
And it's just a good place to put it right now. But that story.
Oh, Cider City. Yeah.
Tell them about that, because that is funny.
So what do you remember about Cider City? Because you were out there before.
All right, so when I was in Iraq, me and Captain Miner would go out every day and meet with the CID and the chiefs of police at all the stations, right?
Yeah.
Well, Cider City was walled off.
It's T-walls. It looks like
it was like the Truman Show. Bro.
It's like Escape from New York. It was it.
Really, Blade Runner type.
So a couple years before the story, about 2006-07, General Petraeus was putting in his counterinsurgency plan. And one of the things you do for counterinsurgency is you've got to restrict movement of insurgents. Sadr City is one of the biggest, I would say probably the biggest slum neighborhood in Baghdad, which is saying something. There's somewhere between 2 to 2.5 million Shia that live in this slum.
All packed into those T-walls.
All packed in there. And what happened was, this is also where the base for the Iranian-backed militias were that were creating all these problems and killing a lot of people and creating havoc. There was all these sort of Sunni on Shia killing that was going on. Just in 2006 and 7 alone in Baghdad, they'd killed over 35,000 civilians. And the city was basically becoming Sunni on one side, Shia on the other. Anyway, so this city, Sadr City, was walled off. We were controlling who came in and who came out. But at night, we, the U.S. Special Operations, with General Fadl and the Iraqi Special Operations Force, we would go into the Escape from New York Sadr City T-wall, and we would hunt some of these key Iranian militias. And what was really interesting about it is we had to wear the same color and type of uniform as the Iraqis did. We'd put American flags on there, but our equipment looked the same. We painted our vehicles so they were the same color pattern as Iraqi vehicles, so that we rolled in the middle of the night. They didn't know who was the U.S., they didn't know who was Iraqi.
I remember that when we would see the taxis, you guys would literally get junk vehicles and paint them orange and white, and you would go into those
We'd go rolling in.
Eat lunch at Prosperity and then go rolling in.
That's right.
Remember that?
Rolling at night, that's it.
Yeah, I remember.
So every night we would go in there, and we were looking for this guy, and we'll just call him Objective Glazer, because, Glazer's Tampa here. And Glazer was one of these high-ranking Iranian guys that was controlling all of these kill squads that were out there. They were either assassination squads, or they were mortar squads, or they were vehicle bombing squads. So he ran all of those. So if we could get this guy, we knew we could take down a full network. So we were really excited about it because we got some great intelligence on him. We had human sources in there, and we also had some electronic sources that were saying, hey, he's at this address tonight, let's go get him. So here we go. The Mardi Gras parade vehicles, 2 o'clock in the morning, all painted up.
Jingle cars.
We're rolling, right? You get up, and this place is packed. Now, normally, when you hit those T-walls, they start calling. They being the observers are out there. Here they come. So what we do is we jam all the cell phones and radios in the area so it just goes silent. So that we've got to just race to the objective before somebody can go knock on doors. So we go zipping in there, and we get to the doors, and we're like, all right, Glazers is in this one right here. And again, no one's shooting at us on this time, because sometimes they shoot at you on the way in and they shoot at you on the way out. But this one was good. So we run up to the door, and by we, I mean the Iraqis. The Iraqi commandos run up first, and they slap a door charge on there. And what's cool about that was 4 years ago, the Americans would have to be the ones to throw up the door charge, and the Americans would have to be the first ones in. But we had done so many ops with these guys. Now the Iraqis were doing it all, which was great. I would sit back in the stack and let them go in. And I always said it was the Star Wars model. Have you ever seen the very first Star Wars movie, The New Hope, when the stormtroopers are taking down Princess Leia's ship? The stormtroopers come in, they shoot everybody, they capture Princess Leia, and then Darth Vader comes walking in. So I'd always tell our guys, be like Darth Vader. Let the Iraqis go in there, and then you come in afterwards to make sure everything's above board and legal and is good to go. So, door charges up, boom, there it goes. Everyone starts charging into this. And the first thing that jumped out at me, the house reminded me of a New Orleans shotgun house. long hallway right down maybe 20, 30 feet, which is a long hallway. And at the end of it is a room, and there's a guy sitting at a table. He's got an AK-47 propped up next to him, lock and loaded, and then he's got cell phone parts all over his table. And I know this because Iraqis are a little bit shorter than me. I'm 6'2", and I can see over their heads as they're charging in. And I hear screaming and yelling as they're running down this hall, and this Iraqi commando in the front, I see him dive over the table. I literally see the bottom of his boots go over. Table flips over, and in my Arabic, I'm hearing, he's eating them, he's eating them. And what I realized was, as we came charging down this hallway, Glazers, who was sitting there, had a decision to make. He could grab his AK-47 and start shooting us. And I will tell you this, if he decided to start shooting, he would have shot every single one of us in that hallway. There was nowhere for us to go. It was a tight hallway, and being a tall guy, I quickly realized that I would be eating all the bullets above 5'11", would be going into my face. But he didn't do that because he's a smart guy, and our enemy is very quick. He looked at his table and he saw a stack of SIM cards that were sitting there, and he realized the most valuable thing that was in that room was not shooting me or the Iraqis, it was getting rid of those SIM cards. So he starts piling them into his mouth and starts eating them. So as I come running up, there's this like WWE scrum going on. One of the Iraqis is fish hooking Glazers and trying to rip all the SIM cards out of his mouth. He's pushing him back so he could swallow the SIM cards, and the place is just total chaos. We get security, we get this guy, he probably swallowed about half of them. So we had to have this really honest conversation with General Fadl. I'm like, hey, listen, someone's going to have to watch him every day at the tip, because as he goes to the bathroom, someone's going to have to pull those SIM cards out, and we're going to have to process them because there's still valuable information on it.
They're not toilets like we have here.
There's not like here. So there was this collective not it going around. But what I realized right there in that evening was something had changed fundamentally with the enemy.
Right.
We have this thing called the defeat cycle. We figure out how to defeat the enemy, and then they come up with a new way to get around us.
Right.
The enemy had now figured out, the Jaish al-Mahdi, the Mahdi army, had figured out cell phones. When we showed up, maybe there was a cell phone every so often, but you didn't run into them often. Now they're carrying 3 or 4 of them. Now they're moving SIM cards around. Because again, this is 2007, so this is a big deal. So I have to go back and write this report of conflict has changed. These guys are now finding a way to work around us. We now have to find a way to now defeat this. So that was going to set up the next level. Dan, I am telling you today that cycle has continued nonstop.
100% it has.
It went to ISIS. It's now going on in the Ukraine.
Right.
And it's that defeat cycle that we keep going. And why the military is great is we're always studying, we're always learning. I learned that day how they were manipulating cell phones and SIM cards.
Well, right. But so if you think about it, though, how smart they are.
Oh, yeah.
They know the data that's on there. So you would have gave up, if you would have got all of those and he didn't do that, it would have been way better than him shooting 19 of y'all in the hallway.
Absolutely.
Because you just gave up 20 or 30 of their senior guys and how they're operating and how they're maneuvering throughout that area.
All the way back to their Iranian Quds Force handlers across the border.
Iran. That's
which
how
is
getting in all those, what the parachute, the Russian.
Oh, yeah, they throw the grenades and all those
RKG-3s, I think
Absolutely.
it is. And then you had all the EFPs.
All
that
those
was all
networks.
coming in through those cell phones and those cards.
Those networks were all separate. They had one thing in common, and that was Glazers. We grab Glazers, we get all these different kill cells that are out there, and he knew that. And he knew he answered back to Quds Force in Iran.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew he better swallow or get rid of those SIM cards. And he had about 3 seconds before an Iraqi launched at him with about 80 pounds of body armor and lit him up like Lawrence Taylor hitting Joe Theismann back in the day. And it was a big deal. But that's it. And look, we'll continue to talk about things that you and I have seen in our careers that were those points, those insights of where we saw conflict change. You don't get that in the news.
No.
The news gives you the point of the day. We'll take you on a journey to show you how conflict has evolved and changed, and why we need the best and brightest and smartest to come join the ranks.
For us, right? So you have to be able to pick up on what that guy was doing, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm getting at. That's why I wanted you to tell that story. It's like this army is so advanced that we are removing ourselves from, but we need new people to come in and replace us that have that kind of intellectual idea and can see the shape of the battlefield in the future. Does that make sense?
100%. And never underestimate the enemy.
ever.
They are just as smart, if not smarter, than any one of us. They just were born in a different situation.
Right.
And they have a different belief system. And especially if they're oppressed and they can't get a job or they can't get basic rights that we enjoy here in the United States every day,
right.
They're going to get angry. And when they get angry, they're going to lash out. Look, the same thing you and I would do if the coin was flipped.
100%.
So that is just another story of what I saw there and how conflict's changing, and we look forward to touching on a couple more of these.
That was a good one there. I appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So, Dan, we have got to talk Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, man.
I'm a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan. They've been breaking my heart every year now for 25 years, since the mid-'90s. And I'm that guy that every offseason believes that, hey, this is going to be the year. This is the year. And then they break my heart. We got quarterback issues now, and not in a bad way.
Nope.
But I want your thoughts on what do you think the Cowboys need to do going forward?
Okay. So are we talking strategic, or are we talking what the fans want?
We're talking strategic. So give it to me from a strategic perspective.
So if I'm Dan McCarthy right now.
Yeah, got to win the Super Bowl. Like, that's your goal.
All right. So I'll break it down strategically.
Okay.
And the Dallas Cowboys, I used to live in Dallas, and I was a fan. Mm-hmm. And I'm from the old school Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Okay, so way back.
So who would those guys be? Like, who's your old school?
The Roger Staubachs,
Nice.
the Robert Newhouse, the Tony Dorsetts, right? When the Drew Pearsons, back when they were the team.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Jackie Smith in the Steelers game dropping the ball in the end zone, his whole body went limp, then we would have probably had that one too, right?
I know. No more Montana nonsense.
And then I was a huge Jimmy Johnson fan.
Of course.
With that team, they brought that youth spirit out of
Yeah.
Miami. They had Emmett from the Gators.
Yeah.
Hey, Nate Newton from FAMU, Rattlesnake, shot out, right? Because people forget about the fam, right? But anyway,
And the playmaker, Michael Irvin.
Oh, yeah.
Right here. Love him.
Right?
Of course.
So I think how I would do it is this. There's two parts to the Dallas Cowboys that a lot of people see past.
Okay.
For some reason, they're America's team, and they haven't done nothing in a long time.
Well, they're not only America's team, they're God's team. If you remember the old stadium that had the hole in the roof, that's so God could watch his team play. But I digress. Continue. I'm sorry.
That would be in Irving, Texas, not in Arlington now.
Oh, please. Let's not play geography because you never know what's going to happen.
All right. So this is what I'll say, though. Are we in the business to win, or are we in the business to make money?
We're in the business to win from my perspective. Jerry Jones might see it a different way.
Okay, so this is what I'll say. Cooper Rush, right? He's winning.
Absolutely.
And Dak Prescott has been hurt 12 games of the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
Don't break the bank, right, by bringing him back now, even though you already paid for it. Don't spend your wad. Let him get healthy and keep Cooper Rush in because he's winning. Don't mess up the formula. Don't make the wheels fall off. Let Cooper Rush play game to game and let them heal Dak. Dak is probably their best course of action to play in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. But right now, you have a winning thing going. Kellen Moore's actually calling a Pop Warner playbook that's working, in my opinion, and I stay with what's working strategically.
I disagree.
Okay,
I got to tell you, I see it a different way. You need to get Dak back in there as soon as possible.
Okay, so what?
And this is and this is why. That team right now is a defensive team.
100%.
There is a system that is working right now, and I'll be the first to admit when Dak Prescott screwed his thumb up and hit that helmet and went out in that first game this year.
All your hearts fell apart.
I just said, we're about to go 0-5, 0-6. We are totally done. Because if you look at the history of the Cowboys, their backup quarterbacks rarely have stepped up to win those games, to include Kellen Moore when he was the backup quarterback. Right. Just not to throw him under the bus.
But back in the day when the Cowboys were legit, in my opinion, you had Danny White backing up Staubach. And then you had Gary Hogaboom backing up Danny White. Those dudes could come in and play football. So they've always have been a defensive team. So if you go way back and then you look now, you see this Parsons kid, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like Lawrence Taylor 2.0, right?
Absolutely.
Would we agree? He's going to get paid in 2025, one way or the other, right? But with what's going on in Dallas right now, with Dak's injuries problem, with the money that's invested, if I'm Jerry Jones right now, I'm playing this kid until the wheels fall off so I can get my quarterback healthy. So he played minimum snaps in preseason. Mm-hmm. He played one game against the Bucs and failed. Only scored 3 points. So let's just keep it real.
Well, Dak Prescott, you can't compare Cooper Rush's ability and Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's so much better. I mean, he is. But that's not even close.
That's not the argument. I know he's a better quarterback.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he plays better in the system. So here's where I'm going with that. Dak Prescott played 2 years ago Super Bowl champ, my Bucs. Mm-hmm. Put 3 points up on the board, right? Mm-hmm. Now you just have Cooper Rush, who's won 5 in a row for his starting career, and then beats the Rams away. So Dak can't beat the Bucs at home, but Cooper Rush goes into the Super Bowl champions away and wins.
Well, make no mistake, though, Cooper Rush didn't win that game. The defense won that game. Pollard won that game. The offensive line won that game because they were just ramming it down their throats and the Rams couldn't stop it.
Okay.
Cooper Rush managed that game.
Well, and you know what? But isn't that a part of being a quarterback? So you just hit on something.
Sure. Look, there's a history of quarterbacks that have been good game managers that have won Super Bowls. I don't take that away.
Right.
I mean, Ravens back in 2000, 2001.
Trent
Dilfer, absolutely.
Brian Johnson here with the Bucs.
With the Bucs. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it just strikes me that Dak is the guy that gives you more danger, more options. I don't know.
So you right now, as a retired colonel, soon to be.
Yeah.
If you were sitting on that sideline right now, you're telling me you would play Dak Prescott right now.
No. If he was healthy. I mean, no one's going to argue you put an
unhealthy. How do you know if he's healthy? We just saw that in Miami a couple weeks ago, right?
Sure. Well, it's not like it's a concussion. It's just can you throw or can't you throw?
Okay.
It's a simple proposition in my mind. And I'll tell you what he brings to the table is the ability to go laterally and spread the defenses out. And I would push back in the 12 games being out because, look, any quarterback who's throwing and their hand hits the helmet of a defender is going to break their hand. Back in college football, I will tell you the number one way to find yourself doing grass drills until you throw up back and forth is in practice, get too close to the quarterback when he's throwing. Those coaches would be on you like a spider monkey, man. They're tearing you apart like
right.
Run. You didn't even know what you did. You were just
giving you the knife hand, the baddest knife hand.
You were just too close to the. You're too close to the quarterback's hand. So let me ask you a question. All right. So you've got a strong opinion here on Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think? Would be the. Would you put a bet down on that? Would you put a marker down on that? How strong of an opinion do you think that Cooper Rush?
Okay. If you let me say this.
Please.
I will tell you this, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You never, ever change the chemistry of a team that's winning. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you got Joe Montana, Tom Brady. We saw that with Tom Brady with Drew Bledsoe, who was a great quarterback who went to your Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Right? And now look what we got.
Go Cowboys.
But I would not change it right now because it's dangerous, and I'll tell you why. You got Hurst playing at a top level, right? Out at Philly.
Yeah.
You're going into Philly.
Right.
You just saw the Kansas City game, with the Oakland Raiders. You see how volatile those fans were. Wait till you go to Philly.
The link is the worst. The link is those fans in Philadelphia are absolute savages. In fact, was it Jason Peters, who played there for a long time, won a Super Bowl with them? He called them idiots in the news in a most loving way, the same way that you would. But he's right. It's a tough place to play. I would not go into the link with a Dallas Cowboys jersey on in the stands if you paid me $10,000.
So this is what I'll bet on it.
Okay.
I will tell you, if Cooper Rush wins in Philly, now that we know that Dak's pretty much ruled out, so we get another roster spot, right?
Yeah.
We don't take him in because he's not dressing. If Cooper Rush beats Philly,
okay,
then they got the Bears and the Lions.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
That's when I would make the decision whether I'm going to create a quarterback controversy in Dallas, or right now, my messaging is simply going to be Dak's my quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But Dak's going to take a few more games to heal that hand. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure. No point to rush your franchise quarterback back.
Because there's a lot of money on the stake with him, right?
Whole lot.
And we got Cooper Rush is going to be a free agent. So this is an audition for him, and he is doing a good job. He's not winning games 100%, but he's not losing them.
Nobody wants Cooper Rush to win this game more than me. Trust me, I am right there with you. I want it to happen. I would rush the stands and get tackled by the security, and hopefully they're carrying some Fox pepper spray out there to to try to slow me down.
Especially after the last couple of weeks of the fans.
Oh, the fans are out of control.
Out of control.
I'm telling you, though, if I want Cooper Rush to win this game, but if Cooper Rush does not win the game, I think that changes the conversation.
So I would put a bet on it.
Okay.
That if he beats Philly, Dak's hand is mysteriously going to stay a little bit wounded.
Okay.
Because the two games that they're playing are out of conference. They're in the NFC, but they're not head-to-headers that'll make a difference later because those teams aren't doing so well.
Sure.
But what makes it a tough decision is that all of a sudden the East in the NFC becomes powerful. Giants are 41, right? Now we got Dallas is 41, and we got 50 out in Philly. So
it's trouble.
It's trouble. Somebody's playing.
We got to win. We have to win in the link. I don't care what it takes.
You have to, but you can't jeopardize that down the road. So if I was out there making a bet, the first thing I would do is tell Dak Prescott to get some of these downrange supplements.
That's right.
And heal your body up, man. Because not only does it work for soldiers downrange, and not only does it work for your community.
Absolutely.
And the group guys.
That's it.
SF guys. But Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys, you need to get some of this swole aid and heal that body up so you'll be ready to win the first Super Bowl in a quarter of a century.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's you're absolutely right, man. If they can stay healthy and get it in, they've got all the pieces to win.
The best they've looked in a long time. Defensively, amazing. So, downrange supplements, go to www.downrangesups.com and use our code on all these products. Go look them up on Google. Go to their webpage. Big discounts coming from Last Call 76. But that plug was awesome.
It was.
Dak, get you some of that, Dak. Jerry Jones might need to take a little bit of that, too.
Nah, that's right. You know what? I'm going to raise you that plug. I'm going to give a quick Horse Soldiers Bourbon and Blanco cigar shout out to my man Kellen Moore, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, Kellen Moore. Here we go.
Look, you hit it. When Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones took over the Cowboys, we were both living in Dallas. When they went 1-15 that first year, I thought those two guys were going to get run out of town. I mean, it was ugly because Tom Landry was a beloved figure, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, the Cowboys are going down." That was a big deal. However, they put a great system together, and it worked. They got 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Should have had a fourth. No offense, Barry Switzer, but come on, dude, seriously. But let's just look past it. After that, once Jimmy Johnson left, the systems just weren't working. There was a reason the backup quarterbacks couldn't get it done. Things were always falling apart. The one thing I'll say about Cooper Rush that I really like is that Kellen Moore was able to turn around and build an offensive system around him to win 4 games in a row, which was amazing. Not something that I would have thought. I will be the first to admit I owe him an apology. I might have yelled bad things at my TV about Kellen the last few seasons, called him everything but a child of God. I take it all back. Proof's in the pudding with Cooper Rush. So I'm going to smoke this cigar for you afterwards, and I'm giving you a Horse Soldier Bourbon. Blanco makes a phenomenal cigar. You've heard me say it. We used to smoke these in Iraq, watching things, and then so to you, my friend, I will give you a tip of the glass. So good job, Kellen.
Yeah.
Well done, my friend. Until the next game. But you're only as good as your next game.
That's right.
All right. So final thoughts on this. All right. So you're sticking with Cooper Rush then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm a Dak Prescott man, but then again, I've been wrong 25 years in a row.
That's it.
It's driving me crazy.
But it's not that I don't think Dak Prescott's an amazing player. That's not my point. But he's got to be able to show up.
He's just got to be able
to be 100%. And here's the thing: it's the long haul now.
It's the long haul.
Right? So
get me to the playoffs.
So that's it. So if this guy can walk the dog for Dallas for the next 3-4 games, we get 100% Dak. Because if you look at Dak, If you go back in the NFL history,
When
Dak's
he's
kinda,
100%.
yeah. If you look at it though, he is a Randall Cunningham from the Eagles back in the
He's a
80s,
killer.
and
Quick,
a hybrid
fast, agile.
to just say like a McNabb.
Yeah.
He's got all these.
That's a good comparison.
He's got these great abilities, right?
Yeah.
He gets outside of himself sometimes, right? Tries to push the. But remember,
They all do.
But Dallas had a bad defense for a while, right?
Of course.
So now he's coming back into the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
And if they handle this correctly, this is the double whammy I'll bet on.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush might get a contract of free agency that might set his family up.
Yeah.
And he may not be a Dallas Cowboy.
Sure.
But if they love Cooper Rush and what he's doing right now, keeping the train rolling, they owe that to him to potentially get him a $20 million deal for 5 years.
He's going to be the biggest winner in all this, for sure.
That's what I'm getting at. So how Dallas handles this is from the owner's professional side.
Yeah.
This kid could feasibly beat Philly, which I'm hoping he does.
Me too.
And Reginald Turner, I know you're a Philadelphia fan, and I'm coming right at you with this one. I know you want Philadelphia to win. But if Cooper wins, then you play Cooper at the Lions, and you play Cooper at Chicago. And then you bring Dak back, because he's got to get his legs back.
Interesting.
He hasn't played.
Interesting.
So when you do it that way, right now there's really no blood, no foul, because you got to look around the other conferences, what's going on. So right now you're looking like the East. If they stay on this pace, so the Giants knock Green Bay off.
Yeah.
Fair
Giants
enough.
look good. It pains me to say that.
Right.
It looked good. The Philly looks phenomenal.
They look great. So we already know we're going to see them again twice because they're in our division or conference. But what we're not going to do is risk our $150 million man that gives us the best path to victory after week 8 or 9.
I like it.
Not right now.
It's a good long view. I can't argue that. I like your comparison with McNabb to Dak Prescott. I think that's right. Look, Philly, just because I hate you doesn't mean I don't respect you. You've got a heck of a team going there, but you got to go down this week. You have to. The Cowboys, this is a statement game. Got to have it. Absolutely got to have it.
Good first discussion on our debate.
Let's go Cowboys,
Love
baby.
it.
Come on.
Thank you,
Come on.
guys.
Let's not make this 26 years. Come on. Welcome back to the salute table. Last week, we saluted the first responders for Hurricane Ian and all the amazing work that they were doing and still doing. This week, we want to salute the Navy. It's their 247th birthday, and they're a phenomenal service. They're that global projection platform that puts America's impact and basically our best foot forward around the globe every single day. I've had the joy of working for some of the best bosses that were Navy. Admiral Tidd, Admiral Howard, Admiral Bradley, so to the Navy, thank you for everything that you've done for our country, what you're continuing to do, and for all the Navy personnel that are deployed around the world.
And I just want to thank the Navy, especially since Seth hit it all, but they had an impact on my life when we were in Kosovo, and they were the Seabees.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful organization that builds things and got us out of the mud.
Absolutely.
So happy birthday, Navy, and we salute you.